we're going to do some different types of segments revolving around fact or fiction. Really the same premise as all of our episodes are, but the format will be a little bit different, which is to make real estate easily digestible to whoever may be thinking about buying, thinking about selling, or maybe even they're thinking about getting into a career in real estate. This is just supposed to be high value information that comes in quick bits. Yeah, so that's what we are going to try to dig in and do going forward here and there. Today, Vin and I were talking, and we really thought that it would be great to talk about a reoccurring theme that we hear every once in a while. Sometimes we hear it more often than not, but it always still seems to be looming there in the background with different types of people and perspectives. So today we would talk about waiting for home prices to crash. Is that the best strategy if you were thinking about buying a home?
Yeah. No, it's a definitely a recurring theme and it comes with the territory, right? When you buy anything that is a investment, and is tied very, very largely on the economy, people working, how inflation's doing, how interest rates are doing. It's very natural for people to be concerned or think about, hey, is this the right time to buy? Should I wait for a crash? Should I wait for prices to drop and then get into it? And we figured let's get this narrative out there in the open, and
Hmm.
not to say one is better than the other or one's right or wrong, but basically talk about our experiences, because we've been doing this, and what you as a buyer or even a seller should know about when it comes to real estate and crashing or prices going up or down. So you know what to do. And at the end of the day, this is all strategy, right? So
Absolutely. And I mean, before we even get into it, Vin, what would you say it recently has been your experience? Is this something that you hear all the time? Is it something that you kind of been hearing sporadically or not at all? I mean, I do feel like we always, like I said, it's always in the background, but the frequency changes, right?
I think that it is definitely a normal question that we would get all the time. And I would say, like, in my head, just anecdotally, like if we're doing an open house, 10 people come in, at least at least 2 to 4 to maybe at least 50% will have this kind of like question in the back of their mind, like, is this the right time to buy, or should I wait for home prices to go down or go down even more, depending on. So, yeah, I think it's very common. And, I think because the area that we're in, Silicon Valley, a lot of people are more insulated to crashes. They know that what must come up must come down, but what
Hmm.
comes down will come back up eventually.
Right.
So I think if really a lot of people are more worried about the strategy versus like homes crashing. Uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know. How do you feel?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair statement. I think it's an interesting point to kind of look at this from when we're holding open house and we do have buyers coming in, because typically we know that when we're holding open house, anybody who walks through the door, has a certain level of intent, right? Whether they're looking to buy a home today or tomorrow or in the next, 1 to 3 years, there definitely is intent there. So having those conversations, right, then like where we're talking with them, we're kind of boots on the ground at that point. I definitely can say, yeah, I agree with you that I was kind of smiling when you said that, because it is so true that every time we do hold open house, you'll have a few that are coming in and asking. And they're really asking from a point of curiosity and just kind of trying to understand the landscape. Right. And here in Silicon Valley, we have such a mix of buyers in terms of we have people who have grown up here and who want to stay here and live here. We have people who come here for work, right? They're not from here. They might not even be from the United States a lot of times, right? And so they're really trying to understand the landscape of the real estate market here. And so these questions kind of come up naturally.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'd say it's a reoccurring theme, definitely when we're talking with buyers at open house. I think there are other external factors that play a role in that, like you were talking about, then. interest rates, economic uncertainty, national headlines. And then, for those of us who were here, who grew up in Silicon Valley or who were here for the 2008 housing crash, right? We all still have that significant event embedded in our minds,
Yeah.
right? And that really was a very big event here in our housing market where you really did see, the crash of property values.
Mhm.
Um, and there was the thing for people to really think about is that there were a lot of different types of external factors happening at that point in time that
Mhm.
played a role in why that crash happened. And those factors are very, very different than what is happening now,
Yeah,
right?
totally, totally. Yeah, and, I guess all that to say is that we have no control over these external factors. So, for you to wait for something that you can't control, um, k kind of makes you, naturally, I just wanna say, makes you have FOMO or miss the boat or opportunities when you, might not you're waiting for something to happen that you don't know it's gonna happen, basically, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of buyers, like you were saying, like, people are fearing about all these, things that you can't control, and, it all comes down to, I think, the fear of overpaying, at least in our market. Most people
Mhm.
feel like are doing well. I mean, maybe I should have put a blanket over that because there are people who are just doing just okay and
Mhm.
are struggling too as well, right?
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, depending on the month, if I'm not closing any deals, I might be struggling, right? So,
It's true. It's very true. And that can vary even by month, day by day, year by year in real estate, depending on what is going on in the market as well,
so yeah, so
right?
so it
For
definitely
real
makes
estate
sense
agents.
why, yeah, and that's why it makes sense that people will ask this question. So, I guess what to stop beating around the bush, what's your take about if buyers are wanting to wait to see if prices come down or crashing, or I feel like a lot of buyers these days too, because of what's happening in the market right now with the war and higher interest rates than it was a couple years ago,
Mhm.
and the rise of AI, right? Because comes with the rise of AI comes with the rise of layoffs, with companies trying to get skinny and being more efficient.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
so what do you say to those people who are saying, "Yeah, I want to wait and see if the market will go down any more or even crash?"
You know what I would say to those people is I would say let's kind of take a look at this from a historical perspective, right? We know that the housing crash of 2008 was caused by the wild west in lending, what we would refer to it as. And there's a lot of people who got extended mortgages who really had no qualifications to be able to make good on those monthly payments. Um, and so that really caused a big default, right? And we did see a significant value impact to housing around here. Um, so that's one piece. The next piece is kind of we can't predict the future. We can't predict what interest rates are going to do. We really can't predict what's going to happen with this war. But what we can do is kind of look at past historical data, right? To kind of get a footing on the ground to see what is typical or what has been happening in the market. And then use that to kind of look forward a bit, not with complete certainty, but with a general framework of, okay, this is probably what I can anticipate home values to do, give or take a fluctuation in either direction, positive or negative. And so I know, Vin, we had kind of talked about showing what the property values have done for at least the past 5 years here in Silicon Valley, just to give you the viewers kind of some context to what we're talking about.
Well, we were talking about past data and
Yeah.
basically what's happening in the last 5 years, and for people who are waiting for the crash, especially the past few years of what's been happening, because I feel like we've just been hit with event after event. It's either been COVID with
Mhm.
high interest rates. Um, there was a bunch of I feel like there was so many things that happened, and then, obviously the most recent was, the war and everything.
Yeah.
But just even with this past data, we do see some fluctuations,
Mhm.
but within those fluctuations, the market has rebounded, right? The market
Mhm.
has dipped and it has come back, and when it dips maybe like 10 to 20%, but doesn't look like in the last 5 years anything has crashed, and it doesn't look like, honestly, in the last 10 plus years that the market has crashed, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I mean,
So
I feel like
yeah,
you could look at being in this business over this period of time. I look at this chart and I can directly see, okay, interest rates went up there, the war broke out there. There was some uncertainty in the financial markets. We had a few different financial institutions just go through some really dire situations, and they aren't around anymore, right? And that kind of led to uncertainty within the market as well. So if you look at these fluctuations, you can definitely tie them back to different events that were going on. But all that to say that although you have had fluctuations, I mean, home prices remain relatively resilient,
yeah,
right, Vin?
yeah,
Even through
totally.
these different cycles, mini cycles almost, that again are related to different things that have transpired that I just talked about. But if you take a look at this, I mean, you're looking at property values and you're saying they're pretty resilient. I mean,
Yeah, no, I think,
here in Silicon Valley.
definitely, and I think what stands out is that what you said is that, the market remains resilient, and, you know, I can see the savvy buyer who's saying, "Well, hey, look, there are dips in the market, so I'm gonna wait
Correct.
for those dips." Which we have people coming in the open house all the time saying like, "Well, hey, you know what? I hear all this stuff going on, so I'm gonna wait." And my gut reaction is always like, "Then why the hell are you here at the open house?" But
They're here to tell you, Vin, that they're gonna wait.
exactly, exactly. But it just goes that they are interested, they are looking, they are curious, but they're
Yeah,
waiting for certainty, right? They're
right.
waiting for certainty. And from what I see, the only certain thing is that prices have gone up. Even with all the dips in the past 5 years, looking at this graph from August 2021 to April 2026, with all the things that have happened in between, we're
Mhm.
still higher than what it was 2021,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, all that to say is that nobody knows exactly what the market's gonna do.
Mhm.
Historically, the market's still trending up, even though there's been some fluctuations. But if you're trying to time the market, um, that's when you run the risk of overpaying. But when
Mhm.
you're going into this, not timing the market, but with a outlook of, "I'm not really looking to get the best price for it, but I'm looking to get the most for it," which is
Mhm.
holding and waiting as long as you can, and that's
Right.
historically how you get the most for it.
Right, right. I mean, real estate is not a short-term hold. I mean, unless you are a flipper or an investor, if you're just the regular normal consumer, it's a long-term hold, right? And you're gonna expect to hold on to this property through fluctuations in property value for a prolonged period of time, right? And this is not to say that prices always go up. Clearly they don't. The graph shows that, right?
Mhm.
But this is more so to say that timing the market is just incredibly difficult,
Yeah.
right, Then it's just
Yeah.
incredibly difficult. And so one thing about us here in Silicon Valley, and you did mention this at the beginning of, this episode, is that we're pretty well insulated relative to the rest of the nation's real estate markets, right? Um, and so if you were to pull data from different areas within the country and kind of take a look at what are their historical median home prices doing over the past year. A lot there's more than a few different areas where it's a much different story than what it is here in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. The market really doesn't send you a text to say, "Hey, market's down now."
Now's the time.
Yeah, they don't tell you it's the perfect time to buy. So uh, with that, it's like to I'm sorry. So with that, I would say the outlook you should have if you're buying is not to time the market to get the best price, but it's getting a property that you know that you can hold on for it for the long term, because the longer you can hold it, um, the better or higher chances you'll have of not regretting paying what you did for that home,
Right.
right? Because I don't know how many people we talked to, Julia, but no seller has ever said, "Damn, I regret buying this property," after they held it for like 10 plus years.
That is very true, especially here in Santa Clara County. My gosh, if you bought your property 10 years ago, you are sitting on equity right now. And on top of that, not only are you sitting on equity, but you have fixed your biggest expense, which is your living expense. I mean, my gosh, man, I look at my mortgage and I look at what rents are doing right now for apartments or houses, and I mean, I don't know how people are. I couldn't stomach a rent that much because my mortgage payment is considerable difference than people who are renting apartments right now. And I'm in a single family home. And so not only have people who bought, accrued all this equity, but they're even more insulated to cost of living fluctuation,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Inflation.
Yep.
So, those are all just additional things that kind of speak to the benefits of home ownership. And so to me, I think it's funny people get really fixated on what the market is doing, and that's natural. I mean, we all want to be aware, right? We all want to know what's going on, but really if you're more focused on what your situation is, what you're able to do, whether it is the right time for you to buy a house, considering, your long-term financial goals, what your situation is now, you're going to be able to find yourself in a situation where you can actually, buy a home sooner than you thought, as opposed to if you just kind of looked at the market from the outside and you're like, yeah, trying to time it, because we know, Vin, we don't have crystal balls. Like nobody does. And waiting for the market to crash, it's a prediction. It's not
Yep.
a strategy, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And so I think that's important for people to remember as well.
So to tie this all up, with part of our segments, fact or fiction, can
Let's do
you
it.
successfully time the market?
I'm gonna say no. Uh I'm gonna say the caveat to that will be, I will say this is the people who were not trying to time the market and are more focused on understanding when and if and should they buy based upon their actual situation, they're the ones that inadvertently are able to time the market, and get in and actually purchase a home because they're timing the market based upon what is right for them at that time. But if you're not doing any of that and you're not looking at your situation and you're looking from the outside in, absolutely not. You cannot time the market.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I'm gonna say fact, you can time the market, but basically in the same sense of what you're saying. So, meaning that, yeah, sure, you can time the market and try to get the home at the best price you can. Um, but in reality, if you're going into buying a home with that aspect or with that outlook, then you just kind of um, have bigger risks, right?
Hmm.
And what I try, and I know what you tell your clients too, is that the right time to buy a house is the right time for you.
Right.
So, sure, you can time it and you might luck out. But if you're not talking about a long-term outlook, then you have a big risk of failing or being wrong about the timing too. So yeah,
Hmm.
sure you can, but really what we're trying to tell you is that the right time to buy a house is the right time for you, and if you think about it like that, then the timing of it, you're gonna be a lot more happy and not regretful about buying
Yeah.
that.
You'll definitely be more successful as well, right?
Yes. Yep.
Um, because there is no certainty in the market, but you can have a certain degree of certainty within your financial situation, what your capabilities are. And so that is the best way, right? To quote unquote time the market, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So next fact or fiction we'll talk about is, all right, so can't really time the market, or you can try, but
Good
be
luck.
beware.
Based upon what we just talked about, good luck.
So next fact or fiction is waiting for lower rates is always a good idea.
Ooh, this is a good one, Vin.
Yeah. So, you know, what happens when, well, let's just why do people wait for rates to drop? Obviously, because you get better pricing, right? Better payment.
Well, yeah. I mean, if money becomes cheaper to borrow, right? That means that directly correlates to your monthly mortgage payment. That means your monthly mortgage payment goes down. And depending on what the interest rates are doing, that can be a couple $100,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
But
So,
the thing is you saving a few $100 um, might not really work out for you if you have to pay tens of $1,000 more over your loan. And why would that happen? Well, what happens when interest rates drop?
well, then what happens when interest rates drop is now more people can qualify, right, to get a mortgage because money becomes cheaper to borrow. And so, what we have seen here historically in Silicon Valley, as soon as the interest rates start to drop, we automatically see an uptick in buyer
Yeah,
activity, right,
totally.
Vin? I mean, when the rates were historically low, it was crazyville here. Crazyville.
I mean, it was
And
10
so,
plus years. It was 10 years minimum of that. I tell this story to all my buyers because now it's relatively more normal
yeah,
where
for sure.
yeah, rates are ranging in the sixes versus a few years ago,
Mhm.
3 to 4 years ago, where rates were closer to fours, threes. Some people even got twos.
I know.
But in that time, I don't know how many buyers I had to tell where, hey, we made the offer, we didn't get it, we competed against 30 plus people, and it went
Yep. Way
500
over
the
a
list price.
100%. I mean, because then at that point, because more people qualify, your competition just shoots up and
Yeah,
pricing follows it.
yeah,
It really does. So what you think, it's great, right? Pros and cons, it's great because now you qualify for more. Your monthly mortgage payment is potentially lower. But honestly, at the end of the day, if there's 30 other people competing with you on the house and you can't compete and pricing goes up way over your budget, do those lower interest rates really help in the greater scheme of things? And so that's one thing to be aware of is that we definitely do see once interest rates drop, activity spikes.
yeah. So it's kinda like pick your
Yeah,
poison. Uh
exactly.
Yeah, sure, you wanna wait for rates to drop, and honestly, who knows when that's gonna happen now with
It's true.
inflation still riding high, with a
Yep.
new Fed chair, who's also very conservative and
Mhm.
want to try to keep inflation down, and
Right.
obviously, when you lower interest rates, inflation goes up. So, it's pick your poison, you wait for rates to go down, and compete, and hopefully get your offer accepted in a super, super limited inventory location,
Yeah.
such as ours,
Yep.
or you buy at whatever rates they are. But it kind of goes back to our first section or segment where what's your outlook? Is your outlook to
Mhm.
stay in this place for a year to 3 years and get out? Then, okay, if you buy at the current rate that it is, might not work out for you because the payment is riding high and maybe the market with what we saw in the graph there hasn't had enough time to kind of rebound.
Yeah.
But if your outlook, like we were mentioning before, is 7, 10 years plus, then who the hell cares about that interest rate? Because your equity, your price of the home has already skyrocketed,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so hopefully after 5, 7 to 10 years, you've gotten your bearings. You've been able to master the monthly mortgage where you're living don't have to be comfortable, but you're able to
Yeah.
manage it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure as heck that people who are able to manage those payments and see their house price or their equity of their house like shoot up 10%, 20% or even more. And in our market, that's a lot of money, right?
Yeah, and it's possible. I mean, historical context, it is possible. It's definitely, it's not the norm, but it can happen. And
Mhm.
if you look at what property values have done here in the county, um, we're showing resilient property values and, price appreciation. People like I think price appreciation is really funny because a lot of people like to look at when the houses were shooting up, 10% or, 12%, within the year. And it was just kind of crazyville again. And it wasn't a normal time like in our
Yeah,
market. It just wasn't. But people reference that all the time. Like, well, look at how much it's slowed. Price appreciation. Now you have price appreciation in like the single digits and it used to be the double digits. And it's like, well, no. We have to we need some context, right? We need to look at this from a historical perspective and what is typical? Like, what is a good appreciation number, in terms of your real estate investment? And double digits is not typical.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's one thing for people to be aware of. And like what you're talking about, Vin, too. I mean, if you're going to hold on to this property, if you can make the monthly mortgage payment, you have a understanding that you are going to hold on to this property for, maybe 7, 10 years. You're probably going to be more seasoned in your career by that point. You're probably going to be making more money. Okay. You've been making monthly mortgage payments, which means your loan debt has been going down. At the same time, simultaneously, your property has been appreciating, right? So you're growing equity. Your opportunity to refinance could definitely come along during that time too. And if rates are lower, great. That works out. That just means your monthly mortgage payment now is going to be lower.
yeah.
So that's also, other scenarios that could potentially happen if you're able to get into a home now, even with interest rates being what they are.
Yeah, and on top of that, if you're renting, then you spent all those years, 5, 7, 10 years, not throwing money away on rent. You're
100% zero return on rent.
0 return on rent. So you're putting money into something. And if you're going into this, not look at historically, obviously, prices have appreciated. If it's a single digit percentage or double digit percentage, overall, it's gone up. So if you're going into this thinking like, "Oh, I'm buying a home just for it to appreciate," then maybe it's not the right thing for you to do. But if you're
Yeah.
going into this like, "I need to stop throwing money away from rent. I need
And I
to
gotta live somewhere.
I gotta
I
live
gotta
some
live somewhere.
I wanna park my money somewhere where at least it's not historically going down, but it's going up, and
Yeah.
whatever the percentage is, it's still going up." Then, um yeah, it it doesn't make sense to wait for better interest rate because what's the point of a good interest rate when you don't even have the investment? Like, get the investment secured and
Mhm.
then things will work out for you.
It's true. It's true. I mean, like I said, that's why it's so specific to everybody's own situation because if the rates are go back to historically low and you can't buy because maybe your credit's not great, you don't have a down payment, then it's not going to matter, right? In the greater scheme of things, it absolutely doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So getting a handle on what your situation is and how you can be ready and then now you're ready to buy and then go that route, that's really the best way to be strategic about buying a home and, not quote unquote timing the market from the outside, but maybe more so timing the market from the inside at a, very personal level, right? Because you
Yeah.
know that you can buy. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Lower rates don't, automatically mean a better deal, right? Y there's
100%.
Yeah, there's no deal to be had if you can't even buy, right? So, the out
Exactly.
the outlook should just be, if I can buy it, if I can manage it, then that's the right outlook to have when buying, and fact or fiction, waiting for lower rates is always a good idea. Based on what we said, what do you think, Julia?
Fact or fiction? I mean, it depends. And I think what we just talked about, like, pretty much outlined that pretty
Yeah,
clearly.
yeah,
It won't matter if you're not ready to buy, right? And it also could be kind of detrimental because now you have more competition, right?
yeah.
You will be competing. So,
Exactly. So, yeah, I chalk that up to fiction.
yeah, yeah. I think so too. Okay, well, let's get started. Let's go then let's segue into this fact or fiction. Waiting is always a bad idea.
Mhm.
What's your
Um,
thought?
you know, my thoughts on that is fiction because, you know, our favorite thing is always, it depends when we talk to people and they're asking us, does waiting make sense? And, it depends. But if you are looking to buy a home, but you're on you thin ice financially,
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, waiting is a great idea.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
If your credit's not so great, if you are worried about job security and you missing a house payment that is dependent on, having this job for at least a month or something, then maybe it's not so great. You don't have more than a month's saving in your bank account.
Right.
Then, yeah, waiting is actually a great idea. And, as real estate agents, professional, what's the word I'm looking for? But we're not car salesmen, like some of these other real estate agents, right? Like, hey, you are trying to buy, we're gonna look at your situation, and if it doesn't make sense, we're gonna tell you wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a lot of factors that go into that when we're looking at your situation.
Yeah, yeah, and I've had a ton of those conversations this year, Ben, I will tell you that.
Mm,
A lot of first-time home buyers coming in and saying, "Hey, I'm really nervous to be here. I'm scared. I wanted to do this, but I've just been so hesitant. But I'm here. I've showed up and, I need guidance." And so, having those conversations with clients and helping them, analyze, is this a good time to buy? And you know what? For a handful of them, it might not be. And that's fine. But now they have a plan of actionable steps that they can take that's going to get them closer to what? Not timing the market, timing their personal situation. So now they know when they will be ready, and when that time comes, they're able to buy something, right?
yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah.
there's plenty of reasons why people should wait. Uh,
Mhm.
financially, if you're not ready, but even because we're in Silicon Valley, we have a lot of people who are very financially capable, but
Mhm.
a lot of these people work in tech, and like we were talking earlier, the rise of AI comes with the rise of layoffs,
It's true.
and maybe you're afraid of your job security, so you're thinking about waiting. And to those people, I say, yeah, yeah, do that because we don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know when's the next day Zuckerberg's gonna send a memo to everybody and say, hey, we're cutting this division, this
Yeah.
part of the business, and you're out of the job. Um, but I guess what I say to those people too is like, you know, you obviously you can't control what happens to you, but you also can control yourself. And what I mean by that is if you have a particular background where you feel confident, where if you get cut from this job, it's not like you're just like a normal worker. If you have a unique job title or a job title that's in demand where
Mhm.
other companies might want you, then, at that point, maybe you don't have to wait. and you feel confident that you can, buy without having to wait, and you have, money in the bank where you could be exposed for a few months, if you don't work and
Mhm.
still
Mhm.
be able to make the payment. So I say to those
Yeah.
people, don't wait, right? But if you can't
Yeah.
answer those questions, then yeah, sure. Make sure you feel more secure before you move forward, right?
Yeah, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
So, to recap, and I totally agree with you, waiting is not always a bad idea, actually. Vin and I would encourage you or anyone out there to wait if any of the things that we kind of just talked about are currently present in your personal situation, right?
Yeah. Facts, like a fax machine.
Like a like a fax machine.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah,
Let's do lightning round. Let's do real
yeah,
quick. All right,
let's do quick ones then.
ready? Okay. Fact or fiction, Vin? Home prices are about to crash.
Um, I would say fiction.
Fiction.
Uh,
Okay.
and the reason why I say fiction is because historically, all the way up until now, with everything that's happening, we still don't have enough houses for everyone who wants to buy.
Amen
And
to that. Something we've all
simple
been singing at the top of our lungs if we've been in real estate now for
yes.
years. And this is not a problem that showed up yesterday, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I mean, California has underbuilt housing for decades.
Yeah.
So it's a big problem.
It's a simple thing of supply and demand.
Hmm.
With we talked about layouts, but even then, with that, we still have a fat job market here, fat job industry here. My
We do.
vocabulary is not great. Robust is what I wanted to say. I was like, what's that word? Fat. No, robust. But
We knew
yeah,
what you
that's what
mean.
I mean. It's robust. So people from all over the world come to Silicon Valley to work here. And with that, I was just talking about this to somebody else who is in Germany,
Hmm.
and I was trying to describe why the market is so crazy where it is by us. And it's in the name. It's Silicon Valley. We are straight up valley. We're not some like crazy metropolitan where we have
Hmm.
houses built on top of each other. We're
Right.
straight up mostly 1 to 2 level homes in this small little pocket area called Silicon Valley,
Hmm.
where housing is just super limited. And when housing is limited and people want to buy because they want to live here, they want to work here,
Hmm.
crashes don't come because the demand.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true. And I mean, we were at a market meeting a few weeks ago too, where they were kind of showing, breaking down development in different areas, in different states, in different cities. And when they pulled up the numbers for Silicon Valley, I mean, basically single family homes, at the percentage that they're being built in relation to the rest of the country, it's basically zero. It's tiny. It's teeny tiny, and if you put us up against other areas in the country, it's basically zero.
Yeah.
Small percentage of multi-dwelling, right? But even that is a fraction of what is coming up in other areas in the country. And so, long story short, it's a long-standing problem. There is no immediate solution, right? That's going to fix that. And that just continues to hold demand very strongly here for these homes. And you see that in the stability of our market
So is that
in
fact or
terms of home
fiction?
prices. So that is absolute fiction. uh, they are not going to crash today, tomorrow. Now, could that happen next year? Maybe there's another pandemic. Maybe, something gets reconfigured. It's possible. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm going based off of historically, right? What has happened and what is in the data. So, no, that is fiction.
Nice. All
What
right.
about this one? I think this is a really good one. Then, do buyers have more negotiation power today than they did 3 years ago?
I think so. I think so. I mean, 3 years ago, um, I I think that, I would say facts, and the reason why is because nowadays homes are on the market a little bit longer than they were a few years ago. So when homes are on the market a little bit longer,
Mhm.
you do have more opportunities to try to negotiate.
Mhm.
So I tell, especially with townhomes and condos, I mean, we talked about this, but when I get a
100%.
buyer who is looking at townhomes and condos, I'm like, you know, like the meme,
Yeah,
the
I know what meme you're talking about. Yeah, let's go get him. Let's go get you a
easy peasy.
nice property, and we got some leverage right now.
Yeah. With that, we're talking about condos and townhomes. You know, there's a new law called SB 326 where a lot of these condos have to redo all their balconies if they have balconies or inspect them,
Mhm.
which adds just another layer for sellers and buyers that makes it a little bit more difficult. So when it makes it more difficult to sell these things because of the factors that I just said, the new laws, then it doesn't make it so desirable to buy. So you have more negotiating power there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with
Um,
you. I feel the same way.
yeah. And you know, because of the war and things like that too, a lot of people are a little bit more hesitant, which is definitely understandable. And which we didn't have a war 3 years ago.
Mhm.
So, you know, like I said, days on market for homes are a little bit longer, and sellers who have to sell are like, okay, please, someone come. I need
Yeah.
someone to buy this.
Mhm.
And you know, it's not so great right now, but we're willing to make it work. I mean, I think I just saw something that you posted on your stories about a seller selling their house, where the buyer can assume the loan, right?
Yeah, and it was like a
Well,
2.9 interest rate. Yeah, assumable
yeah,
loan,
can you
and
explain that?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, it has a lot of moving parts to it, but basically, if the seller has an assumable loan, that means that the buyer coming in, as long as they qualify, right? They have to meet the qualifications of the lender for the seller. So if they qualify, great. So basically, they assume that mortgage at that interest rate, the current, outstanding balance, at that 2.99 interest rate, which is amazing. Now, more context, you would have to come in, and also you're probably going to maybe pay cash for the difference between that outstanding mortgage and your purchase price, right? Because there will be a difference, right? There obviously will be a difference, especially if the seller's been in their mortgage for, 5+ years. But it can, I mean, imagine if you're able to make that scenario work.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
lock down a historically low interest rate. Um, that probably won't be seen again. I mean, maybe not even in our lifetimes, Vin, right? 2.9.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, interest rates, were better than they are now. That's just a
Mm-hmm.
fact.
Mm-hmm.
And with
Mm-hmm.
that, um, comes more sellers who are willing to negotiate. So
Mm-hmm.
fact, buyers have more negotiating power today than they did 3 years ago.
Yeah. And I agree with you on that one for sure. Um, and I've seen that. I think in that story too, I said I have seen, it's interesting to me because I saw that I've seen that more than once this year,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
such a rarity. Like
And
you
you
would
don't see that before.
mm-mm.
Very rare.
So yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
next one is fact or fiction, there is a perfect time to buy.
The perfect time to buy is when you're ready. So I'm gonna say fact. There
Yes.
is a perfect time to buy, and the perfect time to buy is when you're ready. And you
Yes.
have control over when you're ready. You have no
Yep.
control over what the market is doing, right?
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Fact.
Yeah.
When you've got money saved, when you're not going into this trying to time the market, but you're
Right.
needing to buy because you're having a baby or you're getting married or you just need a spot all to yourself. You just want to get away from mom's basement. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a perfect time to buy. And when your job security is good, like I said, when the money's good, or decent or
Mhm.
comfortable, yes, perfect time to buy is now or at that time when all those boxes are checked.
Yeah. So when you yourself are ready. I will say this too. If you are trying to time the market, the perfect buying opportunity is usually only obvious in hindsight. So I will leave those parting words as well. And I know I feel that personally because I see those memes. Do you see those memes, Vin, where it's like, God, what was I doing in 2006? I was too busy trying to lean with it, rock with it, and I should have been over there trying to put a down payment on a house, like all those things, right? But all those things are only apparent how many years later?
Yeah. No, we said it before, but basically the best time to buy was yesterday, basically.
That's how
Like,
all of us millennials feel anyways,
yeah, well, it just it's like goes to
right?
show, like, when you talk to anyone who's
Yeah.
owned a house or owns a house now, it's always like, "Yeah, I should have bought earlier." When you always
Yeah,
talk
it's
to any
true.
the seller, it's
100%.
should have bought earlier. But the next best time is when you did buy, right?
Yeah, that's true. 100%.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
next one, fact or fiction, lower rates guarantee a better deal.
We kinda had talked about this one,
Yeah,
and I think you and I pretty much said that's not always the case, so Imma say fiction,
yeah,
because like we said, rates go down, pricing goes up, more competition, so,
yeah.
it's not a perfect equation, right?
Yep, yep.
So
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna skip the last one because it's kind of was in line with what we already talked about.
okay.
If there's more opportunities, but with this, if there's one takeaway from today's conversation, I think what I really take away from it is if you're looking at this from strictly an investment standpoint,
Mhm.
that you take on more risk, and for me, when you take on more risk, you take on the more possibilities of being disappointed.
Yeah.
So the takeaway is for me is the right time to buy is when you really need to buy, not about you trying to make a quick buck.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm gonna agree with you on that one, because predictions are difficult, right? I mean, if you ever meet an agent who tells you they know that this is what's gonna happen, just know they don't have a crystal ball either,
Yeah, yeah. It's
right?
everyone's
They don't.
when you're at that point, you're trying to be Miss Cleo, which is just predicting
Shout out to
rather.
Miss Cleo. I miss Miss Cleo. I used to watch her when I was sick home from school or up late night.
Well, where is she now? Right? She predicted her
She didn't
ass off the
predict, right?
stage.
How did those predictions work out for Miss
Exactly.
Cleo?
Yeah.
Her job stability.
Not the best strategy, right?
Oh,
So
hating on Miss Cleo. I miss me some Miss Cleo. I can still hear her infomercials in the back of my head.
yeah, yeah, with her Jamaican voice or whatever that was.
Yep, yep, yep,
But no, hopefully anyone who's listening to this, the takeaway is that predicting is not a strategy.
for sure.
The strategy is a strategy where you have control. And when you have control, that's the strategy. Like the more things you can control, the more things you can eliminate from you being exposed, which means you not having money for payment or having to sell the house super quick because you weren't planning to keep it long term.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not strategy.
Yeah, 100%. And so if you guys have any questions or want to talk more kind of about what Vin and I were saying, or maybe you're curious about what is my financial situation and how can I, carve out a piece of property for myself one day, right? Definitely connect with us. Our contact information is always linked in the episode description below. We would love to connect with you. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Peace.
Peace.